Hi Regina. Okay, so here is the spread for Elijah. And what we're going to do is look at where we are, what he did with the majority of his time, an important day with the relationships and feelings involved, another important day, the death, and the lesson learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout. So we're going to start here in Asia. And of course, there are so many countries that we can be looking at here, but this plopped me right down in China. Just like right down in China. Like I can't explain it. It's just like boom, there we are. And we are looking at the life of a boy, and it starts off in very young childhood. And it could be because we are reading a youth, but what it feels more like than anything, why we're starting off at a very, very young age here, is because we're looking at a time and place where this child essentially basically didn't, their childhood was not how we think of childhood. Their childhood started off is like working for the family, working right away, to help bring in money, but also the feeling of it being normal for where we're looking at here. I feel like we're looking at a place of where we would consider poverty, but for them, it's just the norm. Like they're not dissatisfied, these people, because it feels like we're looking at a large community of people in a region in China where they're all kind of in the same boat. There might be some people who are wealthier than the majority, but it feels like the majority of these people are what we would consider financial wise, like lower, I guess like lower class, but like lower to middle class kind of thing, but we don't see anyone really going much further than that. So I guess to us it would almost be how we would consider it is kind of like poverty level, but these people, it feels like this community works very well together. There's a lot of like helping your neighbor kind of feel. But there's also the feeling of this person, this young boy, basically knowing like, okay, it's time to like help the family kind of thing. Like from a very young age, it also feels like we're looking at a boy that's part of a larger family, and almost like he's teaching other siblings the ropes, but not in a very like authoritarian way, but just more in like a friend way. Like it's almost like this soul we're looking at, he knows how to make things that are normally boring or seen as work into something fun. Like he'd be able to turn something into a game to get his sibling more into it, if that makes sense. So where, most kids might just be like, ugh, this is work, this is labor, this is, ugh, I'd rather be doing this. He makes it more fun. Like he has this ability of turning it into a game. I'm trying to see what's going on more with that. There's something about okay, so it feels like we're looking at an agricultural town, and it's almost like if they pursued a different form of harvest or crops or whatever they do, it would bring in more, it'd be more lucrative. But where they live, it's like the land is just perfect for what they have, and it's not, the land doesn't really, it's like it would be so much harder to grow something that would be more valuable. So it looks like we're looking at like farmers essentially growing something that people use a lot of, but that still doesn't bring in a lot of money in the long run. So we are looking at someone who's like learning, like there's something about canals. It looks like I'm looking at like little rows of canals, little canals in a row with these green things, like plant-like things, almost like coming above the surface slightly, and people almost like harvesting it from there. So I don't know if that's rice or what, but there's something having to do with these rows of canals. So this kid is in the water, and it's almost like a lot of the kids his age, this is the kind of work they do, and they're barefoot. And there's something about this boy that really actually there's something about him that enjoys this, and it's almost like loving the feel of water and sand or dirt, it's almost like he plopped down in this lifetime because of the sensations he would get from nature and the physical world as well. So it's almost like he knew that he wouldn't be living a lavish life, but he enjoyed it so much. There's something about the textures that he enjoys, something very much about textures. So connections we could be making, I want to start there with the textures. So if we're looking, if Elijah is someone that likes to run around barefoot, or had at one point, or still does, that kind of thing. Look over the length of his childhood at this point, and something about barefoot, something about being out in the rain, or being out in nature in the elements, something about being something about sand, like either in the dirt, like something in the dirt, in mud, whatever it is. Also the idea that he may take pleasure in just like very natural elements. Take pleasure in the small things, something about appreciating small things. This might be a child who is able to see things where other people can't see it. See beauty in things that other people see as mundane or normal. He may have this mind where he is capable of like a great imagination. Like he may be very imaginative. That is what I'm getting here. As far as like how this person here creates games to make boring things fun. He might be very good working with people, or eventually working in a setting where he'd be a very encouraging, motivational person for others. Talking about working with youth. When he's older, maybe working with youth, people who struggle with depression or anxiety, because this is someone who does or will has this like innate skill within him to bring life to life. Does that make sense? To help others see different perspectives and the silver lining of things. So I feel like I'm looking at someone who is really able to, when he's positive, he's able to light up a room or an event or whatever it is. This is someone who has an energy that can turn a negative energy into a positive one. There's something very transformative about this young person. And it's a really great thing to have today. And I feel like actually he chose to reincarnate here in this time period because of how unstable things are right now. Like our world is becoming divided into like just like destruction and creation basically. And I feel like he chose to come in at this point because he has this ability to transform destructive patterns into what's it called? What's the opposite of destructive? I mean, yes, creative patterns as well, but also like strengthening and reunification and bonding and bringing together, cohesive. Like there's something very transformative about him and his energy. And it's something that you may be already seeing, or something that will be coming along at a certain point when it's ready to be like, no pun intended, but harvested, so to speak. So also, maybe he actually has an interest in farming. Maybe he has an interest in working on the land, or being like a ranger in the forest, or something where he is working with Mother Earth, man. Like he just might be really into that. So keep that in mind as well. See if he has any inclination to want to visit China or an Asian culture in that respect. If that's something that he's interested in, if he sees photos of China, not the cities, China, like the beautiful China, the outskirts of China, the rural China. There's something about rural or the farmlands. See if he likes a photo, if you show him a photo of that, or the photo of a rice farmer, or there's some beautiful photos out there, see what he thinks of it, that kind of thing. He may connect with Asia or China or the culture or the land. I mean, heck, if his favorite color is green, this would be why. There's something very like earthy about this person. Now, keep in mind, this person here we're looking at is super earthy, so it could be that he's coming back to experience being a city boy and a high technology person and someone who is into social, like that kind of thing, like, because his soul experienced this so much that he might be coming back to experience something completely opposite. But it does feel more so like we're looking like a earthy nature person here. And if you're seeing him actually as the techie person or the city boy kind of thing at this point, there's something about returning to the earth or returning to nature. So whatever it is, it feels very warm and earthy and caring, and those are the aspects that I feel are coming through very much. So the first day, here we have the Wowzer card, just like we had in your reading, which is really cool. And I love when this comes up because this is also a connection between you and him. That shows a connection when the same card pops up. Just as simple as that. And so we have the Wowzer card, and we have the family card. So the family's going to be involved in this day. And then we have the pity card. So we have the pity card here. And what it feels like is we're seeing death for the first time for him in a way where it's close to him. And why we have the Wowzer card here instead of the death card here is because we're looking at the death from a child's perspective. Not just a child, but we're looking at death from a child's perspective of a child who knows how to see the positive in everything. So what's happening is, what it feels like, is that this child is part of a very large family. And I feel like large families are a normal thing for what we're looking at here. Also, as far as the time period goes, it doesn't feel like we're looking at it doesn't feel like thousands of years ago. It doesn't even feel like many hundreds of years ago, but it feels like the place we're looking at is so kind of, it's kind of like it's not so much isolated. It's kind of isolated, but what it is that the poverty level of this place keeps it in the past. It keeps it from progressing with the rest of civilization at the same rate. So we're looking at people who might utilize certain things that the rest of the world would consider more primitive, but they don't really know or care because that's just their lifestyle. So this kind of thing is hard to place as far as like a specific date or anything, but it just feels like it would be, if you looked at it today, it would look like we're going way back in history, but the rest of the world is going on in the 21st century kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that's the feel of this place. So it's almost like we're looking at something that would be in the 20th century at the start of it, maybe the end of the 19th century or in this. So we're looking at the 19th or 20th century, but it would look like we're looking at the 16th or 17th century. Does that make sense? So, okay. So for this community that we're looking at, large families are normal. It feels very normal. And it's not just because of like a lack of technology to not have children, so to speak, but it's also about like there's a sense of desiring a larger family to help with life and work. Like it's helpful. More mouths to feed, yes, but also more people to help with the work. Even though the love is there for the children. These kids are not just created just to be worker bees. Like it's a family unit. There's a lot of love here. But it is a large family, and I feel like there's one member that is, what's the word? I don't want to say handicap, but it's like there's a deformity. There's like an interior deformity that makes this child sick from birth. And the child, it's like today, if we brought it to a doctor, they would say, oh, this child is not going to live past like 6 years old, that kind of thing. And so we see this child not living past that age. And so we see the death of a sibling. And what's happening is there is a growth in the soul of seeing a death, because when you are a participant of death, so to speak, when someone dies that you love, there's going to be growth. It's going to feel like a loss, but there's going to be actual soul growth based on how you maneuver through it. And this boy we're looking at maneuvers through it so beautifully, because not only does he immediately see how her passing puts her in a place, it feels like it's a sister, puts her in a place of perfect health, like his belief that that her soul is in a place that is so much better because there was suffering involved. But he helps the rest of his siblings and family and even friends, whatever it is, whoever he comes across who is hurt by her passing, he's able to help lift them up. He's able to help them see that not only is she not suffering anymore, but that they don't have to feel bad for his family because they're no longer having to see her suffer. Does that make sense? So that's where the pity comes in, because the pity is what he is diminishing from the neighbors, from the community, and he's getting rid of it. So he, again, transformative. There's such transformative energy about this soul, which is so awesome and exactly what we need in this world today. So this is a real pleasure to read Elijah. Okay, so this was a wowzer day. It's more like a wowzer period, because it also solidifies his own belief in something that he didn't have to articulate until now, right? So he hadn't had to live through this kind of event before, this kind of, traumatic event of the death of a loved one. He hadn't had to experience it yet. And so experiencing it is also like not a test, but it's like just another way for him to be able to express his energy, to be able to give his gift to the world more in this way, by transmuting this pity energy into a more positive thing. Okay? So, what you might be seeing, honestly, too, is if he's protective at all over either his siblings, any siblings, or a particular one. If there is a particular sibling that Elijah tends to spend more time with, or be more of a teacher to, or be something like, I don't know, if there is a special bond with one of them, it could be that they were siblings in this life, the one that got lost. It feels very much like there's a reunification happening, where they're able to live out a siblingship into adulthood in the current life that they weren't able to here. So keep that in mind if you happen to notice that or see that. But also an overall, possibly like a protective feel, because it feels very much like he's the oldest sibling here for some reason in this life. It has that feel. It could be that he's just the most responsible. Doesn't mean he's oldest, but there's a sense of responsibility about him, even though there is also a sense of free spirit about him, which is a really unique combination, quite frankly, because usually the older, more responsible one is more serious. But there's just something playful about this person here. So let's go to the next important day here. This is the conquered and they have come in the welcome card. So this usually means either there's new people involved, like coming into this community, so to speak. There'd be new people either wanting to take over or wanting to join. Something about new people, new things happening. Excuse me. And then the card involved is the friendship card. And then the card over here is pride. So it actually feels really good here. I'm trying to see what it is, but it feels more positive. I'm just trying to get some images going here, some more feelings going here. What's happening? There's something about... Okay, so what's happening, it feels very much like, because of something... So it feels like there is a sister community to this community we're looking at. A sister community that is not what we would consider close by, but it's the closest one to them. So there's something about where people from that community and people from this community our family because there's marriage, there's like unions and marriages that go on between the communities, because we would consider them small by our standards. Here they're a large community. To them it's a large community, but there's a lot of large families. So okay, I guess what I'm saying is, in order for there not to be marriages between or within families, that community over there, this community over there, they have marriages set up, if that makes sense, so that cousins aren't marrying cousins. Does that make sense? Like that kind of thing. So it's like to keep it clean in that way. And so it feels like that community, there's something about people coming over because there's something about, because they do the same thing. It's like a farming community, and it feels very much like there is a deterioration in the crops of some sort. I don't know if it was a storm, I don't know if it's a bad season, and I don't know if it's a bacteria or a bug eating the whatever it needs to be, but there's the sense of a deterioration of their livelihood, of their crops over there. So there's a sense of welcoming them into the community. There's a sense of more people at the table. So we're looking at families, taking in families, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to take care of them, because it feels like these people are, it feels like a large chunk of the other community had to join this community in order to work and make money themselves, like to just keep the other community still living. They sent people over to work. Does that make sense? So even though it is like very poor over here, there's still more workers, means more crops, means more income. So it's not like people are being sent over and it means that things have to be spread thinner. Maybe at first, but then things start getting better. And it feels like we're looking at this because there's this really wonderful feeling. The pride comes in because it feels like this family we're looking at, there's something about seeing the seat of the sibling who had passed filled with another body. So it feels like where there was loss, now there's an abundance of more, there's more love, there's more unification, there's more family, because it feels like family is coming into it, and it is because there is family over there. So basically what it feels like is any family that was sent over to the other community to live based on marriage, whatever it is, those people are coming back to their families, back to their homes with their families, if that makes sense. I hope this is making sense. So it feels like the household is very filled with more family. So where there was one loss, now they gain 5. That's what it feels like. And that's how they're looking at it. And that's also what this boy here does. It feels at this point we're looking at a young teenager. So it's interesting because we're not really moving forward into like this adult man person. We're looking at what we would consider youth still. Like we start at I want to say we're starting at 4 years old, and then we're looking at him here at 14 kind of thing. So over this course, and so when these people come into the home, his energy, which is very again transformative, whatever it is, it's not just transformative, actually his energy leaks out. His energy it penetrates people. So his love for this family, it's almost like this house is filled with this loving energy, and the pride is like the pride in his family, the pride not in only his family and taking care of these other people coming in, this other, more family members, but just like in the life that they're living. Like there's something very lovely about this, and there's also something lovely about how the people are accepting of the other people despite their lack of financial or lack of, they make it work. There's something about making it work. So we're looking at this soul who's part of a family who knows how to make things work. Just like he turns work into play, he knows how to again, see the silver lining, get stuff done in time. Like there's something about very capable, just like this. So in his current life, you're looking at someone who is very capable. He's very capable of making things work. He has the ability of just being able to see the good. I know I'm repeating myself about this, but it's just it just keeps coming through, this feeling. So keep in mind too, as he grows up, you might see these traits become more apparent as he grows into who he's going to be and the career path he takes and what he wants to do with his life. Look to see how he's affecting other people around him, how his energy and what he does helps the people around him. And it might be in ways you don't really see until you think about it from a different perspective. You know what I mean? So it could be more of a creative thing as well. Like he might be very creative and his creations set off a domino effect. It feels very much like he is someone that sets off a domino effect. So keep that in mind. Alright, so now the death here. Here we have the accident card. So I'm just trying to see what's going on here. It takes place outside. There's an accident outside. It feels like, okay, so what it feels like is, it feels like we see a slip, and we see something with the, okay, so it feels like we see a slip on his end, and then a slip on the end of something that was not securely tied into place. There's something like that wasn't secure, and it caused him to slip. And there's water involved. There's a foot injury involved. I can't see, what's not coming through is the exact way he passes, but it's telling me the elements, which means how he passes isn't so much important as the elements of it. So 1, foot, ankle, leg. If he is experiencing, if he has any kind of limp, or a certain way he walks where he favors one leg, like if he's one of these people that's born with one leg longer than the other, one foot might be larger than the other. Like for me, I have where sometimes one, like my left shoe is a size or a half a size smaller than my right shoe, kind of thing, which is kind of, you know, I've heard it's common, I don't know, but like that, it might be that kind of thing, which would make sense because it feels like we're here, it feels like it's the right foot, but it doesn't mean it's the right foot in this way. But also look for birthmarks on, from his calf down, see if there's any birthmarks on his feet, ankles, calf down kind of thing, because there's a twisting, feels like there's a swollenness, feels like there's an internal bruising thing going on. Also, he might be someone that makes sure things are in their place. So he might be someone that makes sure like that things are, this is kind of random and specific, but tied securely, if that makes sense. Or if there's, if he has some kind of fear about things, like if he's a double checker, I guess is what I want to say. So if he double checks a lot with you, like, hey, did you lock the door? Excuse me. Or, hey, is that tied up? Or is that secure? Or, hey, did you, like that kind of thing. If he double checks things, that would make sense, and it would come from here. And if not, that's fine. But that's the kind of thing that would come from here. There's something about, I want to say there's like a storm thing, but I don't know if that is connected, because it feels like almost like it got loosened by a mix of certain factors, like something got loose because of the weather, and then someone not being on top of their duty. So we also might be seeing someone in his current life, he might be someone that is that likes to task people with things. So if you see him telling friends or siblings or you, whatever it is, if he likes to, it might feel like he's ordering people at times, but he might simply just be giving people tasks to do. That feels like it would come from here, if that's how he is at all. But mostly we're looking at a foot issue. So just keep that in mind, and if there's nothing with his foot, awesome. But if there is, it could stem from here. So the lesson involved here is simplicity. There we go, simplicity. And that comes through so beautifully over what we went through here, because we're looking at the most simple life you could possibly have. But not just that, it's about making fun inside the simplicity. So the most simple life you could possibly have, and here's someone that makes the most of it. And not just that, they don't just make the most of it, and they don't just make work fun, but they make it so others are brought into that kind of joy. So it's not just about himself. This is not a selfish person. This is someone who can't help but spread the energy in this way. So while he's making life fun for himself, he's also creating a more fun existence for those around him, and a more loving existence, welcoming new people in. This person also, in his current life, he might be very welcoming, or he might be very good at adjusting or helping others adjust to new situations. So this might be someone, again, I feel like as he grows up into adulthood or something, there's something about even possibly helping less fortunate people, but it's more so almost like special ed, or like people or youth who have trouble adjusting, either based on mental or emotional issues that they have in their life. But we also, at this point, in like, let's say he goes to school, he might be that person that is very kind or helpful towards kids who are bullied or picked on, kind of thing. Like, and it might not be where it might not even be where he's like overly caretaking towards those people, but it could be where he definitely looks down upon people who bully, or looks down upon people who do pick on those people. By the way, I don't know if I actually got to this card. Did I get to this card? What he does the majority of his time? I don't think I got to this card, but it's give, give, give. So it's what we've been talking about this whole time. It's a giver, someone who's a giver, and it comes naturally. So watch for that as he grows. And basically, let's see, it's almost like, I don't even think there's more of a message in this. It's more about like, this is the soul we're looking at, is this soul that's able to make joy and wonder and creativity and happiness out of the simplest things. So there is his past life. I hope you and him enjoyed listening to it and were able to make some connections here. And thanks for letting me read him.